Special measures to improve transport connectivity at the Kai Tak Cruise Terminal. Cathay Pacific posts a net profit of $4.3 billion in the first half of the year. And severe tropical storm Kanun heads to South Korea after battering areas of Japan. Hello and welcome to TVB News. The city's tourism chief admits the government misjudged the preferred mode of transport among travelers at the Kai Tak Cruise Terminal last weekend. To improve the transport connectivity, authorities have introduced a free bus route alongside incentives for taxi drivers to pick up passengers at the terminal. Jackie Lin reports.
Resorts World 1 returned to its home port in Kai Tak on Wednesday morning after spending 3 nights in Taiwan. To address transport woes at the pier, this 22-hour city bus route running from the cruise terminal to Kai Tak MTR station is now free of charge with service hours extended. Happy about the free rides, this passenger said it is much more convenient for tourists visiting Hong Kong. To encourage taxis to pick up clients at the cruise terminal, $50 LPG cash coupons were handed out to cabbies. But longer queues of tourists and cruise terminal employees emerged at this taxi stand around midday. This Taiwanese tourist said it's unreasonable for them to wait that long for a cab, almost half an hour. She hopes Hong Kong will introduce systems to update the taxi industry more efficiently on the number of passengers waiting in line. This taxi driver meanwhile said even the cash coupons are not appealing enough, as they don't know how long they need to wait for a client and when cruise passengers would disembark. Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism Kevin Yeung, alongside the Tourism Commission, took a first-hand look at the situation this morning. When asked about transport chaos over the weekend, Yeung admits the government misjudged the tourists' preferred mode of transport.
We will continuously review these measures, the effectiveness of these measures, and may do some fine-tuning. The ultimate purpose is to make sure that tourists, when they arrive at Hong Kong, they have a smooth trip.
But Cassie Wong, the Vocational Training Council's project manager specializing in tourism development, said the government should ask passengers preferred transport in the city before they reach Hong Kong and improve the transport connectivity at the pier accordingly. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Cathay Pacific announced today a net profit of $4.3 billion for the first 6 months of this year, a notable recovery from the $5 billion loss during the same period last year. Company executives expect the airline to reach 70% of pre-pandemic passenger flight capacity by the end of the year. Mimo Sengai reports.
In post-pandemic Hong Kong, companies began to rebuild and boost their business, including the local flag carrier Cathay Pacific. According to the carrier's interim report, Cathay posted a net profit of $4.26 billion in the first half of the year, a major turnaround from its $5 billion loss in the same period last year. Passenger revenue went up by over 1,000% compared with the same period in 2022, while cargo revenue decreased by 11.6%. The airline said it is optimistic about the future cargo market.
This year, I think the overall market has normalized. Obviously, demand, you can say that it's not as strong as last year, but actually there's still a lot of cargo out there, especially for us where we are located. We are seeing very strong demand of e-commerce goods coming out from GBA, so we are definitely capturing quite a lot of those.
To support Cathay Pacific during the pandemic, the government bought $19.5 billion of preference shares of the company. The company said it will buy back 50% of the shares before the end of this year and the other half by July 2024. Meanwhile, the recruitment process was said to be broadly on track.
We've had 5,000 applications so far this year from Hong Kong, and we've had 600 people agree to join us after going through the selection process. We've also been recruiting people in some of our outports in Singapore, in Bangkok. We're targeting 200 or 300 people from the Chinese mainland this year, and then that will become an ongoing feature of our recruitment.
The company also plans to purchase 32 additional Airbus A320neo aircraft, saying they will be delivered by 2029. Memos 9, TVB News.
The mainland's July Consumer Price Index fell in July, the economy's first deflation in over 2 years. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, the country's consumer price index in July went down by 0.3% year-on-year, while the market expected a drop of 0.4%. The Bureau said the CPI is expected to rise gradually in future as the mainland economy recovers and market demand expands. The death toll from recent flooding in Beijing rose to 33, including 5 rescuers. Another 18 people are missing. More than 1.2 million people are affected by the record-breaking downpours. Beijing saw its highest level of precipitation in 140 years. Officials expressed condolences to those who died in the disaster. Some 210,000 houses have collapsed or are severely damaged. Mainland authorities are aiming to repair damaged infrastructure within a year and improve flood prevention measures within 3 years. South Koreans are hunkering down with severe tropical storm Kanun expected to bring heavy rain and strong winds to the country after battering areas of Japan. Dozens of flights and ferry services were suspended in South Korea today. The storm is expected to make landfall near the port of Tongyeong early tomorrow. South Korea's weather agency says Kanun could have a punishing impact, packing winds of 126 kilometers an hour and slicing through the center of the country. Kanun had pounded southern Japan ahead of the peak summer holiday season. Trains and flights were canceled in Kagoshima and other cities on the island of Kyushu. Japan was also facing the possibility of another storm approaching from the east. The Japanese city of Nagasaki today marked the 78th anniversary of the atomic bombing of the city during World War II. After a moment's silence, Nagasaki Mayor Shiro Suzuki called for the elimination of nuclear weapons during a somber ceremony. He said, as long as countries are dependent on nuclear deterrence, a world without nuclear weapons cannot be realized. The ceremony had been scaled down because of the approaching tropical cyclone Kanun, which prevented Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida from attending. Kishida said in a video message that Japan would lead efforts in the international community to achieve a nuclear-free world. Around 70,000 people were killed in the Nagasaki bombing 3 days after an atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, killing 140,000 people. A Washington Post article published on Monday said Chinese military hackers gained access to Japan's classified defense networks in 2020. The article said China was able to access information about Japan's military capabilities, plans, and shortcomings. The Pentagon declined to comment on the Post's report, but insisted the United States was confident about sharing intelligence with Japan.
Well, what I would say is, again, I'd let Japan speak for their own intelligence capabilities and cyber capabilities. What I can say is, from a department's perspective, we feel confident in our relationship with Japan. We continue to coordinate with one of our greatest partners in the region. We continue to conduct exercises and bilateral and trilateral meetings. So we feel very confident that Japan will be able to address any security concerns that they have. But I would direct you to Japan to speak more to that.
Still ahead, Niger faces more sanctions after the country's military leaders rejected diplomatic bids aimed at restoring constitutional order. Domestic helper organizations ask for a rise in the minimum monthly salary. Local athletes' recent success at the World University Games could inspire more young people to learn wushu. Welcome back. Niger was slapped with more sanctions on Tuesday, hours after the country's new military leaders rejected the latest diplomatic mission aimed at restoring constitutional order following last month's military coup. Nigeria has also closed its land borders with Niger, affecting cross-border trade. Tracy Furness has more.
Trucks filled with goods on the Nigerian side of the border with Niger, and they are not going anywhere. This truck driver says, "I've not been informed why I'm stranded here, but maybe it's because of the crisis in our neighboring country, Niger." Nigeria closed its borders with Niger due to the coup. This is crippling the business of truckers plying international routes to Niger. The Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, of which Nigeria is a member, sanctioned the Niger Republic after the toppling of the country's democratically elected president, Mohamed Bazoum, by military forces. The relationship between Niger and the ECOWAS is deteriorating by the day. ECOWAS will meet in Nigeria Thursday to discuss the Niger situation. More sanctions were imposed when a delegation of West African states and the United Nations was refused entry into Niger for negotiations. The United States has paused funding for a number of programs for international military education and training, peacekeeping operations, amongst others.
Acting Secretary Nuland met yesterday with leaders of the junta and made clear that there was a diplomatic path forward for them if they would choose a return to constitutional order. She also made clear that there would be consequences if they didn't, that there are hundreds of millions of dollars of U.S. assistance at stake.
The European Union said there was still room for mediation efforts in Niger.
We are not working together with the current illegitimate authorities in Niger. There will be no positive consequences if this military coup is allowed to proceed. At this stage, as I said, the European Union, we still believe that there is a space, there is a room for mediation efforts. ECOWAS is the main actor, the main regional actor in this. Whatever ECOWAS decides will then be implemented, and the European Union has declared strong support for decisions and actions and efforts of ECOWAS to find a solution to this situation.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Tuesday that he had spoken to Niger's President Mohamed Bazoum to express continued efforts to find a peaceful solution to the constitutional crisis in Niger. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Pakistan's imprisoned former Prime Minister Imran Khan is to appeal his conviction and 3-year sentence in a graft case. That's according to one of his lawyers. Khan has also been barred from politics for 5 years. This development is the latest in the political drama surrounding 70-year-old Khan, who was ousted as Pakistan's prime minister in a no-confidence vote in April 2022. He was arrested over the weekend and sentenced for concealing assets after selling state gifts he received while in office. Khan has denied the charge, saying he did not violate any laws. Today, Islamabad's High Court will hear an appeal against the guilty verdict on the grounds that he did not receive an adequate hearing. Some domestic helper organizations in Hong Kong have suggested that the Labor Department should raise the minimum monthly salary for domestic helpers to $6,016. Comprised of members from countries such as the Philippines, Indonesia, and Nepal, the groups further suggested that meal allowances should be more than doubled to $3,065. Several employers' rights groups criticized the request. They said the Indonesian government has already increased costs for the hiring of their domestic helpers. They added many employers are still facing the consequences of a pandemic-battered economy. At the World University Games, which wrapped up yesterday, wushu athlete Samway Hui Takian clinched gold for Hong Kong in the Taijijian or Tai Chi sword category. Some martial arts practitioners hope Hui's success could inspire more young people to learn about this Southern Chinese tradition. Here is Jackie Lin.
Flying kicks and dancing blades. A new generation of martial artists in the making. The wielding of Chang, a wushu spear, also known as the king of Chinese weapons, all part of the White Crane Kung Fu under Guangdong martial arts grandmaster Luk Chi-fu. Apart from sparring and self-defense skills, lion dances are another signature showpiece of this kung fu branch.
I like lion dance and martial art because I think lion dance and martial art are just like dancing too.
It's fun and special, and also it has been my family's tradition over 100 years.
Andrew Pang, the fourth-generation successor of the White Crane Kung Fu lineage, runs this martial club. He hopes more young people could be interested in carrying on the legacy of this Southern Chinese tradition, especially after Hong Kong wushu athlete Sam Hui clinched gold from the World University Games.
White Crane martial arts, we have over 100 years of tradition going on. And I hope that what Samuel Hui did will really translate well with our core values, and I'm really hoping that future generations, after watching his game, they'll gain inspiration and probably become future generations of martial art practitioners.
As an action movie actor, Andrew has introduced a cinematic twist to his courses.
In the cinematic terms, Bruce Lee, he made it a mission for him to spread awareness to the whole world. At the end, it's a physical language that is international, that anybody could understand.
Instructors here also told us martial arts practitioners have various career possibilities, not just limited to teaching or taking part in sporting competitions. This is also what they can become: professional stuntsmen or action actors. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.